Welcome everyone to the Howl podcast, where we feature guests from various backgrounds with captivating stories to tell. And our goal is to bring people together by sharing diverse perspectives and experiences, while also empowering and amplifying underrepresented voices to inspire positive change in the world. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Howling Gale Entertainment, and please give us a rating on Spotify if you haven't, at the Howl Podcast. And our next guest for today is Jeff Francisco, a Filipino-American actor, producer, director, and art director. He's known for his role as Alvin Aquino in the Netflix series The Lincoln Lawyer, and he's also known for booking roles in movies and TV shows such as Numbers on CBS, Make It or Break It on ABC, and also appeared in Lionsgate's film called The Plane starring Gerard Butler. And as a Filipino-American creative, Jeff is proud to represent Filipinos and Filipino stories in the mainstream media, while also serving as the director of live events at FilAmCreative. And we're super excited to hear and learn more about Jeff's journey, as well as his role as director of live events at FilAmCreative. So without further ado, please welcome Jeff Francisco. Welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you guys doing? Thank you for having me, Juan. Appreciate you. And finally, we got the chance to do this after many tries. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. Glad to have you here. And you know what they say, third time's the charm. We've always been wanting to do this for a long time, and super excited to finally have you here. And for the listeners of The Howl who don't know much about you yet, just kindly introduce yourself and also your background.
Yeah, of course. My name is Jeff Francisco. I was born in Manila, Philippines. Came to the U.S. when I was about 10 years old and resided in Daly City, California, where a lot of Filipinos live. So shout out to Daly City, Bay Area. And yeah, that's where I went to school. I went there since I was in sixth grade, middle school, high school, and college, really. Ended up going to SF State for my undergrad. And there is where I realized I wanted to pursue acting, but couldn't have the courage to tell my parents. So I just kind of like snuck away and started taking acting classes, on the side in downtown San Francisco until I end up meeting some acting coaches that helped me get agents in LA. And, at that time I end up finishing at Academy of Art University and studied art direction, and pretty much dropped out and pursued this crazy life of filmmaking. So that's pretty much my story, and that's what led me over here. And thank God I started booking some projects to convince my parents that I wasn't crazy.
There you go. And can you share a little bit more about your journey being a first-generation immigrant to becoming an actor and filmmaker in Hollywood? Did you take film classes or acting classes before you started booking roles?
Yeah. So what's interesting about my story is that my aunt in the Philippines is Winnie Cordero. She's an actress, broadcaster, news, and personality and comedian in the Philippines, which some of you may know Ate Winnie from TV Patrol. I grew up as a kid watching her on TV, and I feel like really what kind of, got me to be interested in it, and it's how I got bit by the bug, so to speak. But right when I moved here to the U.S., I never really imagined that a person like me, a person of color, Filipino, immigrant, would ever become an actor in Hollywood. It's just something that you just never see, right? You associate, or at least I did. I associated movie stars or actors as like the Brad Pitts or Tom Cruise of this world, and obviously white. And for me, it's something that I've always loved and was always interested in. So right when I got to the U.S. In sixth grade, I ended up naturally joining the Glee Club and all these, like, any production that allowed me to sing and act and, perform, I kind of just gravitated towards it. It was like my mind was just glued to it. And it was like a signal was being thrown at me, and I was just like, come here, pursue this, and audition for this. So I did, and I ended up always getting the lead role. And, like, I remember at Westlake School in Daly City, they had an audition for the Glee Club, and I ended up getting the lead role of Aladdin. They were doing a production of Aladdin, and I ended up getting it. Maybe also because I was able to sing that, the Aladdin songs, and ended up getting it. And, my classmates are always like, you're so good, you should do this. And middle school, when people were gangbanging and doing all these crazy things, I was going to these practices and rehearsals for Glee Club, and doing plays and stuff. So when I got to college, it just never left me. I didn't pursue it in high school because I think high school was just one of those times where, your adolescence, where you're like, I'm not going to pursue what I really want to pursue, being rebellious and stuff. But when I got to college, someone told me that people actually studied theater. Like, it was a thing to study. It was actually, you could get a degree in studying theater. And I was like, well, this is crazy. People study this? And I knew my parents would never approve of me studying theater instead of business or medicine, God forbid. But I snuck away. While I was in college, and I paid for my own acting classes. And there were these theater classes that you could take, like acting schools. And so I went to, I believe it was Gene Shelton's Actors Lab. I believe some, like, notable people have studied there, like Danny Glover, possibly even Robin Williams, if I'm not mistaken. But I went, and I sucked miserably. It wasn't that great, and like, anytime you do anything for the first time, you're probably not going to be good at it. So I went, and I started making sense. Every week it kept on making sense and started clicking. And I just fell madly, deeply obsessed and in love with the craft of acting and dissecting a character and reading a script and trying to figure out who is this character and what is this character about, what makes him tick, and why they're doing what they're doing, why they're saying what they're saying. And, just fell in love with the craft of screenwriting and screenplays. And, I got to know who Chekhov was, who Neil Simon, and all these great playwright, Christopher Durang, and, name them. And so I kept on doing it. And then I auditioned for my first film role. It was like an independent film that they were auditioning in San Francisco. And I went to this audition, and the director was like, have you ever studied film and TV auditioning? And I was like, no. You should check out this acting school. And it was for film and TV. And I guess at that point, what he was saying was that you're way too big. You're too theatrical. You need to, simmer it down a little bit, because film and TV is completely different. You're not on stage, or you're right here. It's natural and normal. And I studied at that school that he suggested. And I fell in love with that. I fell in love with the craft of, like, wow, it's just right here. This is all. Don't have to do much. And you just have to keep it small and real. And if you are thinking it, they can see it in your eyes. And so that was my journey of studying acting. And, from there, I think that is what really led me to eventually going to a workshop and getting an agent in LA. I got signed by an agency before I even moved to LA, and I started auditioning until I ran out of money and booked something, and I moved to LA. Ran away from home, so to speak.
Wow, what a story. And it also looks like you've worked on like many different projects on film and TV as well. So could you highlight maybe some, some particular projects that were meaningful for you that you worked on?
Yes, most definitely. It was one of the most memorable one for me was my first TV audition. No, not my first. I auditioned for maybe a couple of TV shows like Cold Case, or I'm aging myself by saying this, but I auditioned for a TV show. I believe it was like my fifth audition ever in LA. I think the previous year I auditioned for a huge movie that, where I beat out like 2,000 kids at the time. I say kids because when I was in my 20s in college auditioning, I was playing and auditioning for 14-year-olds because I looked so young at the time. So I was beating out kids, and and they had nothing on me because I was mature and old enough to to go to these auditions by myself, and they were still with their parents. So naturally. But I auditioned for the TV show called Numbers on CBS. Great show, mathematician, FBI, procedural. And I remember going to the audition, and, Dante Bosco, Rufio was at that audition. And I was like, why am I here? This guy's going to book the part, but also, wow, I'm here right next to Rufio. This is cool, and I was second in line, and I really just didn't believe that I was going to get it. And I'm pretty sure, I think I saw John Briones in that audition, or every Filipino that was there, and even also non-Filipinos were there. But he went in, and you could just hear, at the time you got to go to in-person auditions, and it was the writers, the producers, casting director, executives from CBS were there. You had literally 20 people watching your audition, and this is a callback. So I got to, I hear him walk in, and he immediately, the whole room just explodes into like, hey, oh my God, you're Peter Pan, Hook, like everyone knew who he was. No one knew who I was, of course, but so, you can just hear his audition and how I was just like, oh my God, of course he's going to get this part. Everyone was like patting him on the back, and, he does his audition and he leaves, and it was my turn. And the casting director calls me, and I remember walking in thinking like, oh my God, I'm so nervous because like they're still talking about him as I get into the room. And so I'm just like, whatever, let me just focus on my, my scene. And I remember the casting director introducing me. I believe it was Mark Sachs. And he was like, guys, this is Jeff Francisco. And I sit down, and no one was paying attention. They're still like, oh my God, you remember Hook? You remember Rufio? Blah, 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 blah. Right? And I'm like, man, they're not even going to pay attention to this audition. I might as well just drive back home to San Francisco. But I sit there and I start, getting in character. I remember playing this, like, this kid that was working on a container ship who was like a suspect for a crime. And I just got tackled by the cops. So I'm like getting interrogated, and I'm like doing this. And I think after the first line, when I said my first line, and I had a thick Filipino accent for the role, everyone shut up after that, and they just started listening to my audition. And then I started speaking in Tagalog, because I translated my own script in Tagalog, and it was the first time I've ever felt like, in front of this boardroom full of like executives, where I felt like, and maybe I was an outer body experience where I felt like, is this really happening? They're really like, I'm commanding their attention. This is crazy, right? I'm doing a great job, maybe, but also I'm like trying to focus and like, get in character. So there's this weird thing that you do as an actor where you're aware, but you're not aware, because you're like in it, and I got out of there and I was still like, that was great. I'm happy with my audition, but I should drive home because Dante Bosco is definitely going to get the part. So I did. I literally left. I was staying at my aunt's house at the time. I just took my stuff, went home, started driving. I think I was like passing by Barstow on the way, on the 5. And my manager calls me and she was like, "Hey, where are you at?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm driving back. I'm driving home. I'm almost at Barstow or whatever." And she's like, "Wait, what? Go back. Go back." I'm like, "Why?" So like, you booked the part. You got the part. They want you there for wardrobe tomorrow. And I'm like, "Wait, what do you mean Dante Bosco didn't get it?"
Wow.
He was like, "Who the hell is Dante Bosco?" Rufio. Just like, what? Okay, whatever. You got to go back. They want you for wardrobe. You're going to shoot on Monday. I think it was like a Thursday or something or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, I booked it. So that was that.
Wow. What a memorable experience for sure. And wow, I just got to say, like, being in that caliber with Dante Bosco, wow. And you booked the role. Congratulations. And
Yeah.
I haven't actually seen numbers, so now I'm excited to see it.
It's somewhere out there. It's somewhere in the YouTube world, I'm pretty sure.
It's somewhere out there. And also beyond acting, you've been involved in different aspects of the entertainment industry. So can you share some insights into your work as a producer, director, and also art director, like you mentioned, right?
Yeah, of course. I think there came a point in my acting career where there were really just no roles for Asian men, Asian people. I think I really got lucky by being young and getting in the industry while I was still young, or I looked younger, that I was able to get some roles. And thank God that there were actually, writers that were already writing parts for Asian people. But after the first writer strike, nothing, it really just like kind of got cleared out. No one was writing for Asian men anymore. And there were barely any roles for Asian women. And if there were any, it was like strippers or whatever, like, these token whatever. And it really got whitewashed to say, at least from my experience. And that's coming from my lens as a Filipino actor. I was struggling to make money. I had to wait tables because, back then you couldn't really have a day job if you're auditioning or if you wanted to audition, because auditions only happen between, 9 to 5, were office hours. And if you weren't available during those 9 to 5, you would get fired from your job, because if you had to leave to go to these auditions all the time, and which happened a couple of times, you would have to have a night job to make a living. And, it was very, it was kind of disenchanting and also disheartening to experience something like that, where, you're waiting and waiting for audition. You sacrifice day jobs, which if I had a day job back then, I'd probably, be a little bit more financially okay, and maybe not rich, but at least secure. And, at the time, it was just like, well, this is a sacrifice you have to make, make whatever kind of money you could get at night without having to, maybe pimp yourself out or whatever. But, waiting tables or bartending it is. And I sucked at both, so I was just like, well, damn. All right. I think what led me to finally, deciding like, what, I'm not auditioning that much. There's no roles, so might as well try to get a day job. And if I was going to get a day job, definitely couldn't be an office job. And a friend of mine suggested like, hey, why don't you get into production? You're still getting to be surrounded by people, and, it might be a great, exchange and if you're not auditioning, you still, this at least doesn't take you away from the industry. So there was a post for a production designer or an art director for a short film. It was a very artsy short film. and from an organization called We Make Films, like, where it's a community of creatives that try to post if there's people hiring. And a friend of mine suggested my name, and I got hired to be this art director. And I think it's because of my background as a graphic designer. I was editing photos for headshots for actors for a really long time, and I had a little bit of background as a graphic designer because I went to my time at Academy of Art. A lot of what I did was art direction, is like doing advertising stuff and graphic design. So that really helps when you're a production designer and art director, because you kind of have to make things up sometimes. A lot of posters you can't show on TV show, on movies, because they're licensed, so you have to create your own. And I think that really got me in there for that. So I got the job, and and what's crazy about it is the production designer for the short film happened to also be Filipina. And her name is Fatima Molina. She's an amazing production designer. She took me under her wings. I still work with her to this day. And she taught me everything I needed to know about art directing, because I was really just faking it to make it. Like, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just like, tell me what to do and I'll do it for you. And I fell in love with the fact that you get to dress up the set. You are working directly with the production designer. You're like wardrobe for the set. But what's great about it is I got to work with the director and the cinematographer, and literally in meetings with them. Whereas an actor, you're usually shut away and tucked away in the back. You don't really get to have this creative input. And I realized I love that, and to get paid for it was pretty amazing. And I think from that job, because once you're in the system, once you're in the crew, so to speak, people start getting to know your name, and people start suggesting hey, do you want a PA? You want to be a production assistant? Do you want to be a wardrobe assistant? Because you could be also an art director assistant, and your name starts to get circulated, and you start getting offered jobs. And why wouldn't you want to get paid being on set? And then the pandemic happened, which made everything go on self-tape.
Oh, yeah, true.
And also, everything became self-tape. Yeah, there's a moment where we stopped, but then everyone get back in production, which was funny. It was I feel like we're the only industry that got a pass to you guys can go back to work. We need our TV shows. We need our movies. You guys can go back to work. But everyone was like, no, you guys are going to die if you go to work. Funny. It's crazy. But that's a whole other topic. I digress. So I think that was after that happened, now that everything went to self-tape for auditions, it was oh, this is amazing. I get to work, make a living, have a 9-to-5, work on production, and still pursue acting. That was a game changer for me, because now you no longer have to sacrifice or just have a night job. You could have a remote job. You could have a day job. You could have whatever you want, But for me, it was great to get into production because it is the best teacher. I learned so much about filmmaking, and I think while pursuing this, and I was in that place of feeling bad about myself that there were no audition for Asian men, I think something switched in my brain where I decided, you know what, I'm going to make my own films. I'm going to do this myself. I am tired of asking for permission and waiting for Hollywood to tell me when I can and cannot work. And for Hollywood to say, here's an audition. It's I feel like the beggar, and they're giving me what, my treat or something, like a little puppy. And it just was so demeaning. And I think there is a point when, when we started getting cameras on our phones where I'm well, I don't need to really rely on someone else to film my stuff. We have cameras on our phone now. There's really no excuse. Mm-hmm. And that's when YouTube personalities started coming about. It's people are creating content now, and we get to give ourselves permission to say, I want to act and I want to make my own movies, and I want to learn how to do it. If I'm going to do it, I want to learn how to do it legit, and really how the big dogs do it. And that's another thing with our technology, is YouTube kind of became this hub for us to learn, and be educated in the things that we want to be educated about. And that's also another gift that, technology gives us, that gave us, is like, not only do we get to not ask for permission, not only do we get to capture our own movies, but we also get to go on YouTube and learn how to do cinematography or direct or produce or light something, or what is a character arc, write your own projects. It's like YouTube University was born, and I'm so glad it was, because now you can really self-teach yourself these things, So I think that, plus everything going on self-tape, and, being able to pursue a career as a production assistant or production coordinator or production designer, art director, I'm learning how to DP now. I'm learning, I'm a second AD sometimes. I started accepting every job that was offered to me because I wanted to learn it all. And I'm so glad I did, because now that was really the biggest teacher for me to learn how to produce anything. And yeah, so that was my journey in being behind the scenes. Sorry for the long-winded answer.
And that's crazy, because on top of that, now you are the director of live events at FilAmCreative. Could you tell us a little bit more about this organization and also your role as director of live events?
When I was looking for a community here when I was an actor, it was my friend Giovanni Espiritu, shout out to her, director, actress, multi-hyphenate, talented woman. She was like, hey, there's this organization, this Filipino organization called FilAmCreative. They're doing a panel at CBS Radford. You want to come with me? And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. What is this? Like, wait, really? They got to go to CBS Radford and do some panel with the executives or whatever, educational panel. And I found it to be so inspiring to have an organization that was really trying to provide for Filipino creatives in Hollywood, that I just kind of was mesmerized and grew to really be so intrigued by this organization, that there was such a thing. There was a resource, there was a well, there was a community that we can go to and look for answers to, and gravitate towards my people, and who are also creatives. And I didn't have to do this alone. And I've always wanted to be more involved. I think I went to a couple of events after that. And it was great. The people were all nice, met, the founders, and it was just so great to see a group of people really trying to find ways to educate our Filipinos in Hollywood. But, I couldn't really commit to joining the organization as deeply as some people did, like Giovanni, because I was still struggling and waiting tables and all that stuff that I didn't really have the time to do to join all the activities that they had. So there was a gap. That was in 2018 or 2017, and I think with all the pandemic and all that stuff happening, I just didn't really get to really immerse myself in that world until I met Mark Labella. I met him at Asian World Film Festival last year, and I recognized him because we both auditioned for SWAT, and he got it, and I was on check and bail for it. So I guess it was between me and him, but he definitely got it. But if he couldn't do it, it was me type of situation. So I approached him. I was like, Mark, you're Mark Labella, and he was like, how do you know me? I'm like, we auditioned for the same thing. And, and we ended up exchanging info, and he was just super nice guy. And I think that was the time that he was just getting vetted to be the next executive director for FilAmCreative. And turns out he's also on the plane with Gerard Butler, and the plane was premiering in January. So we, I guess we ended up contacting each other because we found out we're also in that movie. Mm-hmm. And we're like, are you going to the premiere? I just got invited to go to the premiere. I'm like, well, let me get invited to the premiere too. So we end up talking when we were at the premiere in New York, and really got to know each other. And I was like, "That's crazy! You just became executive director for FilAmCreative. That's awesome." And he was like, "Have you ever thought about getting involved?" And my answer to him was like, "You know what? Absolutely. I've always loved FilAmCreative and what they stand for." And I always told myself that if I ever got famous or got to get some kind of traction with my career, I don't ever just want to be just that actor that just was like, I'm just an actor. I've always wanted to be the actor that became a philanthropist, or that was always that has a foundation, or always tried to give back to the community. I always wanted to be that actor that gave back, because when I would see actors on TV talk about their foundation or whatever and what they're doing to give back to the community, I always found it to be inspiring to do something like that. So that's what I wanted to become. And he said, "Well, Jeff, I have an opening for assistant to the director of live events with Lyndon Apostle, who I've already met also at Asian World Film Festival." And I was like, "Oh my God, I'll be working with him." So it just, I got on and I said, "Hell yeah, please sign me up." And that the rest is history. And, we started doing, my first real job with FilAmCreative was to help him organize the panel for the screening of The Plane with all the stunt people from the movie at Lionsgate. So that was a great success, and it was awesome. And now I am the director of live events and also the managing director for the first inaugural FilAmCreative Film Festival, which is also really exciting.
Yes, absolutely. Super excited for that event for sure. Yeah, and as director of live events, can you talk a little bit more about the events that have been happening as soon as you joined, and also the upcoming events as well, like you mentioned, the festival?
Yeah, so after the Plane premiere, we also did another panel for blind spotting, which is, any big projects that has any Filipino stars in it, we try to always, do something, like a screening or a panel with them. Another one was, Drea Castro approached me about, helping her out with a panel with
Cleaning Lady, right? Or
Cleaning Lady with Miranda Kwok. And Cleaning Lady, of course, is a TV show on Fox that centers around a Filipino family, which is the first, time it's ever really happened. That's a network doing a national television show that surrounds a Filipino family. Amazing. So I helped her out with that, which was a great success. We had Ruby Ibarra perform. We had the writers and Miranda Kwok at the panel. It was all over the news. It was 250 people came to the event, and all, celebrities and, filmmakers, and all that was a super huge success. And then after that, we had a producers panel that was led by Jenilyn abroad, and she brought some producers from the Philippines. And also Anthony Francisco was in that, the guy behind the creation of Groot on Marvel. And then simultaneously, we had our 10th actors panel, Filipino Hollywood actors panel, and we had like 12 guests or 11 guests. We had, Reggie Lee, who was my co-star on The Lincoln Lawyer. We had Giovanni Espiritu, Somali Montano. We had Timothy Granaderos, Kian Talan, Sam Morelos, and we also had, Jeffrey Micklot, casting director for a lot of, for The Mule, and it was great. So that was also a huge success. A lot of people went to that. And now we are, given this opportunity to lead this big task of launching the first Filipino film festival in Hollywood, which is long overdue. I can't believe that we don't have one yet. San Diego has a Filipino film festival, and we don't have one yet. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And we also are doing concurrently right now, which is actually happening on October 5th. We are doing a panel with Star Cinema's Very Good Girl, which stars the very first Filipino Golden Globe nominee, Daly of Triangle of Sadness, who stars in that movie as well, and Catherine Bernardo, who is probably the #1 box office leading actress in the Philippines. So they're both going to be here. We are partnering up with Tremendous PR, Jeremiah's company, also a Filipino-owned PR firm here. He's doing the premiere over here, the U.S. premiere on October 4th, and ABS-CBN and Tremendous approached us to do the panel, the Q&A educational panel for it. And that, everyone can check out on October 5th. So get your tickets. Otherwise, it's going to sell out really fast. But we have our film festival coming up on November 3rd is our opening night. It's going to be a huge celebration. And we have Brillante Mendoza, who is Cannes Best Director, Palme d'Or award recipient, who is also going to be there, and we're featuring one of his films as well, Kinatay, and then on the 4th we have our short films that are going to be screening. We're going to have panels with award-winning filmmakers, and then we have our award ceremony on the 5th. So it's a 3-day event. Please check it out. It's going to be fun, amazing, exciting, and I'm excited for it. I can't wait for the panels. I think one of the themes that I really want to explore, and when I've been talking to our team about it, I said, because of the strike, and we are in solidarity with the writers and actors, we wanted to, I wanted to see how we could start that conversation with this film festival. We want our film festival to really have this barometer and standard for uplifting and also just highlighting what it means to be a good filmmaker. And how do we do that with the conversations we're having at the panel? And right now, the biggest conversation is technology and AI. So I wanted to kind of see how we can tie that in with our film festival. So I think one of the themes that we want to explore is, technology and AI. What is it, a blessing or is it a curse? And how has it been a blessing and how has it been a curse, to filmmakers? And do we let it consume us? So that's kind of, what we want to explore with at least, for the panels.
Yeah, definitely. And I definitely do agree when you say that, it's long overdue that, or at least it's about time that we are going to have a Filipino film festival in Hollywood, because more and more of us need representation. And also there's so many Filipino talent, at least in Los Angeles, and super excited about the event, and also glad that you're doing all these events. And, it's really given me so much opportunity to network and also, touch base with all these Filipino creatives, Filipino talents, and just meeting all these amazing individuals. That's how we met as well. And super excited for more events, etc.
Congratulations on Tahanan. See, like, you guys have, you guys are doing it, and having this kind of conversation with other filmmakers is so important, because the reason why we're doing it is so that filmmakers like you and Howling Gale, productions, been able to produce certain projects like Rasik, and all of you guys and Nick are doing the work. And why can't we have our own festival to showcase that work? Not to say that we can't go to other festivals, but you guys just won Best Actor at a non-Filipino film festival. That just goes to show how much talent we have, right? And congratulations on that, by the way.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for the kind words. And yes, if you're listening to this, whoever's listening, the Filipino or FilAmCreative Film Festival is coming up very soon, and it's going to be such an exciting event. So please be sure to check it out and also be there. And I guess moving forward, based on the topic of Filipino representation, like where do you see us going now? Because I see a little bit more and more us being shown, right? Like especially with FilAmCreative supporting these artists. So where do you see us going, at least in the near or distant future?
When I joined FilAmCreative, and we're all doing this for free. We're volunteers. We actually don't get paid to do what we're doing right now, but we hope that we can attract sponsors and a lot of more money for this organization so that we could provide grants, resources, acting classes or any kind of classes for creatives, so that especially, we come from a lot of the times it costs money to do what we're doing and to learn what we're doing. And some people just don't have that resources. And a lot of the things that we wanted to accomplish with this organization is to resources and opportunities and put that together and be able to provide that for the community. Also uplift the community, have a platform. And I felt like once I joined in this particular organization and this administration, that was brought on by Mark Labella, has been so successful at really amplifying the organization, but also the community, that a lot of people are getting to know who we are really, really fast. We're doing events that are really, that you cannot ignore. And it's getting recognized by news outlets, not only here in America, but also in the Philippines, in our motherland, that Filipinos all over the place are finding out about who we are. And that's amazing. And that's something that's where we wanted to take it. And I think with the success of so many Filipinos recently, really just paving the way, like Daly de Leon and Jokoy and, Olivia Rodrigo, you got so many, Bruno Mars, all these people that have just really been doing the work and putting it out there. And then you have, filmmakers that are winning awards internationally, like Brillante Mendoza and then Eric Mati. Last year, they got their accepted at the Cannes Film Festival. And
did they? Wow.
Juan Arcia won Best Actor. He got Palme d'Or last year for missing on the job, Missing 8. So we're there, and we're getting recognition. And Manny Jacinto, it was like in one of the biggest blockbuster movies, and so I feel like my goal for the future is that we do that. We do exactly what we were doing, before the pandemic, plus more, and that we actually, to see a Filipino story on TV is actually more normal. That it's not like, oh my God, there's a Filipino family on TV now. Like, no, now my goal is for that to be more of an everyday occurrence, that we're not even surprised by it anymore. That our stories become normalized, because we are the biggest, minority group in Los Angeles, if not the whole country. We are the fastest growing, immigrant community. And that's amazing. And yet we are the least represented. Seeing Korean families on TV is so normal. Seeing Chinese families on TV now has become normal. But yet Filipinos are, nowhere to be found. It's very rare that you see characters like that. But, now that we have actors like, Dave Bautista, and Darren Criss, all these people that are like really, have big names now. George Briones is on so many projects. It's great. And that's what I hope to be as an actor, is where, we could just like, oh yeah, Jeff Francisco, or Juan Raimundo. His stories are out there, and productions are out there. And that is where my goal is, and that our community will be able to tell our stories that we've been wanting to tell, because we have such a rich story. So, yeah.
Absolutely agree. And I think also the key is for us Filipinos, Filipino-Americans to help support each other, to uplift each other. And Absolutely. That way we'll get to that mainstream and we'll be seen everywhere. So, yes, thank you so much for that. It looks like we're almost out of time, but as we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts or messages that you'd like to leave our audience with, especially those who are passionate about, I guess, pursuing a career in the entertainment industry?
Yeah, I would want to piggyback off of what you said, the unity and community, right? And, the only way that this is really going to, one of our statements or our tagline for FilAmCreative is, a rising tide raises all ships. If we are going to ever have a chance at this, and we have such a great momentum right now in raising that tide, the wave is coming, and you see it, right? It's there, you can see it. So if you want to jump on that wave, it's about being a part of the community. And if you build it, they'll come. But if it's going to get built, it takes a village, and we all have to put in our own efforts and work. Put in our own time and really help each other out. But if you help everyone out, and we have this platform available to us now, you will get a chance. They will get a chance. Everyone will get a chance. Whereas if you just do it by yourself, it might not happen. So, definitely, get involved with your community, especially, if you're a corporation, if you are a business owner, help with whatever money that you can give to these organizations, because the more money that these organizations have, the more resources that creatives have. Also be kind to one another. There's a saying of to each one teach one. We have to be able to pass down what we learn, because if you just keep it to yourself, how are you really serving others, and how are you really going to pass on our legacy if you don't teach it to the next generation? They're the ones who's going to continue what we're building. So I think it's really about that. I think that's what I'm learning, is that the more I give back to the next generation, the more I learn, actually. So really, it's really that, and keep on and being true to who you are. Don't ever let anyone tell you that your story is not good enough, or that you are not good enough, and that your story is actually worth telling. You deserve to take up space. That's my advice.
All right, that's a clip right there. That's amazing, Jeff. Yes, thank you so much for all of that, and very inspirational human being. And thank you so much for being a guest of The Howl. And before we end this episode, I want for people listening to this podcast to know where they can find you in social media, or, anywhere. Yeah,
I am definitely on the gram. I am on the gram as @JeffVFrancisco. And that's also my Twitter or X handle. You can search for me there, and look out for me at FilAmCreative events as well. You can find me there in IRL, in real life. And, please come to these events. We are definitely accessible to you as a community. And if there's any questions that you have, we're always, available to help answer that, or lead you to anything that you are looking to do. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you already talked about some of the events that FilAmCreative is hosting earlier, but just kindly just summarize that in a bit so that people remember for this. I guess
also,
the end of the podcast.
They can follow at FilAmCreative on Instagram as well to see any future events. But again, October 5th, the Daly de Leon and Catherine Bernardo panel, which is happening here in Los Angeles, and that is also on Eventbrite. Click on or follow us on Instagram for that to get the link to the tickets. And November 3rd and 4th and 5th is our inaugural FilAmCreative Film Festival, and And that is going to be a 3-day event, and that's going to be at Occidental College in Eagle Rock. So yeah, check it out. Join us.
Absolutely. Join us. Check it out. It's going to be such an exciting event. And lastly, any people you want to shout out, companies, individuals?
Yeah, well, shout out to The How and your production company. I really appreciate all of you guys there. Nicole, everyone, Nick, and also shout out to FilAmCreative. They've been an amazing family, and I hope you guys can join our family, as well as most especially to our film festival crew. They've been working so hard. Mark Labella, amazing executive director. Please, please, please show us some love. Show these people some love. And yeah, I guess that's about it. Yeah.
Perfect. Yes, Jeff, this has been such an amazing episode and conversation with you. And I'm very excited for people to go to the future events. And yeah, that's just super exciting.
Hey, thank you, brother. Appreciate you. I'm glad we finally got to do this.